Lady Deadpool. It is what it says it is. So she had, apparently, I'm not a big Deadpool guy. So the first major event following the Crisis on Infinite Earths. Hi, I'm Glenn Simpson, and I've collected comics for over 40 years, and I'm showing off my collection one box at a time. Today we're looking at box number 97. We're going to finish up the K's. We're going to get into the L's. So we'll have some last of this and last of that. And we will get into some legends of this and legends of that. So it's going to be a good time. I'm glad you're here. Let's get going with Glenn Simpson's Comics. All right, here we go. So our next item is from the Krakoa period of the X-Men, Knights of X, a big sort of a little event. I think this was actually sort of the first event they had once we got into that period, if I remember correctly. Lots of people having to wield swords in a fight, but not really having to fight with the swords kind of thing. Anyway, 001 through issue 5. Right there. Then we get to Night Terrors. So Night Terrors was a couple of months there, if I remember correctly, where DC stopped all their series and only published these special Night Terrors books instead of their regular series. And I think when it's happened in the past with like Convergence, it was because there was something going on. They were moving their offices and some things like that. So I have to wonder what the goal was here. I don't know if it was straight up just doing something different, or if there was an attempt to just give everybody, the regular artists, a chance to get caught up on the series, the regular series. But be that as it may, there was a main series here, Night Terrors, issue 1 through issue 4. This bad guy pulls all the characters into their dreams and nightmares. And then there were a bunch of 2-issue, if I remember correctly, 2-issue series. And I do have these kind of all bundled up to, I think, 4 in a bundle. So we've got Night Terrors Action Comics. So you only see like issue 1. And, well, I say that. Night Terrors Angel Breaker, issue 2. I don't know if that's just not packaged right, or... yeah, I think I just need to fix that package. Anyway, Night Terrors Batman. And Night Terrors Black Adam. Terrors. This is not a good series title for someone with my accent. Night Terrors Catwoman. I'll try to fix that. Night Terrors Detective Comics. There were some one-shots in there. Here's Night Terrors First Blood. Terrors. Night Terrors Green Lantern. Night Terrors Harley Quinn. Night Terrors Night's End. This might be the end of the whole thing. I think it might be, you know how they like to change up the numbering and stuff. So, 1 through 5, and then for the conclusion, jump to Night Terrors Night's End, something like that. Night Terrors Nightwing. Night Terrors Poison Ivy. Knight Terror's Punchline, Knight Terror's Ravager, Knight Terror's Robin, Knight Terror's Shazam, Knight Terror's Superman, Knight Terror's The Flash. Kept the in the organization here. It's kind of in the middle. That's always a choice, a decision. Knight Terror's The Joker. His nightmare is to, be a regular guy at a 9 to 5. Knight Terror's Titans. Knight Terror's Wonder Woman, guest starring Detective Chimp. And Knight Terror's Zatanna, teaming her up with Robot Man. We've got from Milestone, we've got Kobalt, which was with a cover by John Byrne. Interesting series, because unlike most Milestone series, it did not feature a minority race character lead. But they weren't presenting a world where only those types of people got power. So I think it was all good. So. And it's about a kid who gets wrapped up in the world of this Batman-esque character, and the hilarity that ensues. So, issue 1. I don't remember if I have all of these. Issue 4. Issue 5. I don't think I do have all of them. That would be issue 6. Issue 7. Teaming up with Static. Issue 12. Issue 13. And that is all of that series. Oh, wait, sorry. Issue 14. And through issue 16. I think that's it. Yeah, final issue. Alright, so then we have, from the 1970s, we have Kobra. Kobra is about a set of twins who feel each other's pain, and so the one brother, the good guy, has to go seek out the bad brother and go stop his plans for world domination. And Kobra and his army would stay around for a while. They'd get brought back in Batman and the Outsiders, and they'd be used a good bit over the years. Although I think the main brother, who is the protagonist of the actual series, he dies. So it's kind of a sad ending, really. But, issue 1. Issue 2. Through issue 7. There. And we've got a Secret Wars tie-in called the Korvac Saga. As with many of these miniseries, it's taking the title of an older arc and just kind of making a new story that's sort of reminiscent of that earlier one that takes place on the whole Battle World thing that is a main fixture of the Secret Wars storyline. So, issue 1 through issue 4. This one, of course, features the old school Guardians of the Galaxy dealing with this godlike being Korvac, which was basically what happened in the original Korvac saga in the Avengers. Next we have a Marvel movie special of Krull. This was a early 80s movie fantasy film. I highly recommend. It's pretty cool. Special effects are kind of goofy, but it's pretty scary. Dude, I like his cool weapon. Always liked his spinny blade weapon. Issue 1. And we get a drawn cover. You know what? I think Brett Blevins kept getting the assignments for the movie tie-ins, because I think there's another movie tie-in that Brett Blevins did. Then we have... Oops, wait. No, that's right. KryptoThe. KryptoN. Nope. Don't look at that. Wrong spot. Krypton Chronicles. So this was a 1980s series, really kind of going back and telling a lot of the history of the L family and their interactions with the history of Krypton. It's issue 1 through issue 3. Right there. So now that we've done Krypton, we can look at KryptoThe. The recent series telling the new story of Krypto, the super dog, making his way to Earth. It's very sweet miniseries. Issue 1 through issue 5. It does have some very, very, very sad moments involving other dogs passing away, so trigger warning. If you've watched these videos, you know that the less valuable or important the individual issues of a series are, the more likely they're going to get just kind of packaged all in one chunk. So this was a thing called Lab Rats by John Byrne, and it's about a bunch of kids who escape a facility that was doing experiments and giving them superpowers, and they get away and trying to make their way to safety. And by issue 8, the whole thing is over. And it's all in one book, all in one bag. Lady Deadpool. It is what it says it is. So she had, apparently, I'm not a big Deadpool guy, but you know, she had appeared in other, in the Deadpool series, and so she gets her own one-shot round about the time the Women of Marvel, they were doing one-shots for lots of female characters. Alright. Then in the New 52, Larfleeze gets his own series. Larfleeze is the Orange Lantern. He is, if green is will and red is rage, then orange is avarice. He wants to have everything. And so therefore he's the only Orange Lantern because he won't, give up the power to anyone else. Keith Giffen and J.M.B. Matthias, who were famous, of course, for the Bwahaha Justice League. Scott Collins, who after this would work with them on the Justice League 3000 book, and it's a funny thing. He captures this Kaluan and won't let him go, and he's got a real, sarcastic way of speaking to him, so it's fun stuff. Issue 1 through issue 9. I don't think we even have any crossovers or anything. Issue 10. We do have, well, I say no crossovers. We have Gnort coming in for a guest, the dog-oriented alien Green Lantern, through issue 12. I really should break this up into 1 through 6 and 7 through 12. I might look at that. Pull that out. Do that in a bit. We've got Last Annihilation. I'm drawing a blank on what Last Annihilation was, but it's weird is it doesn't have a miniseries that I have, or not by that name. I don't know, but anyway, Last Annihilation, Wakanda. There you go. I can't remember them all, folks. Last Annihilation, Wiccan and Hulkling, the son of the Scarlet Witch and the son of the original Captain Marvel and the Skrull Princess. He's not truly related to the Hulk. One shot there. Alright, then we've got Last Days of Animal Man. So the throwback to the old Animal Man series. In fact, we've even got Brian Bolland back doing covers, and it's kind of one of those. Here's how the character comes to his end, even though we're not really dropping the character. They may have intended to at this point, but of course he is still around. Issue 1 through issue 6. There. Alright. Last Days of the Justice Society. So, Crisis has come and gone, and the scenario is that the heroes remember Superman and Batman, the Earth 2, Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman and some others, even though in their new history they never existed. And the Justice Society is sort of trying to figure out their place in this new kind of world that they're living in. And it turns out that there is a big cosmic threat sort of thing, magical Surtur of the Norse mythology is coming to, destroy the universe or whatever. And so the heroes of the Justice Society wind up going in and they get into this thing where they're constantly living and dying, but they're constantly stopping Surtur from getting any further. So, and a few of them get tossed out because they were going to go on to be in other things. Dr. Fate, for example, would go on to be in the new Justice League book, and we wanted to keep Power Girl around, and things like that. Star Spangled Kid was going to continue to be in Infinity Inc. So, and then in the recent new history of the DC Universe, it's implied that, or it's stated that something like this happens in the current canon, but it happens much earlier, and that is where the Justice Society goes, and is kind of like the Captain America on ice. That's where they go, and they're not aging, and time isn't passing for them, and then at some point they come back, thrown back out at a point where they settle down, and they get on the sliding timeline at that point, and they, that's when they have kids and blah blah blah. So they're kind of taking that idea, that story, and pushing it back to earlier, to right after the 1950s, when they first retired, so that there's somewhere for them to go, so that there's somewhere for them to come back from, if you will. So we don't know much about the details of that new version of this, but there you go. Last Defenders, Joe Casey, Keith Giffen. Not sure what the purpose of this was. Anything that's called Last, because it's not going to be the last anything. Last Defenders, issue 1 through issue 6. Right there. Been a long time since I've read that one. Alright. Last Hero Standing. This was a sort of a revitalization of the old MC2 line of books that Spider-Girl was probably the last survivor of. And so this is kind of a team-up between the regular heroes and the, I say that, I don't even know if the regular heroes are in here, but the, it's revisits that universe, and there were 2 or 3 of these miniseries about that, and this one is Last Hero Standing, issue 1 through issue 5. They're clearly going up against Loki. And the next one was Last Planet Standing, where they're all going up against Galactus, issue 1 through issue 5 of that. Then we have another movie tie-in, The Last Starfighter, another 80s classic. I don't think this one is Brett Blevins. No, this is Jackson Geiss. Rest in peace. A guy lives in a trailer park, and they have a video game there. One of the stand-up, theater quarters video games there, and he gets the high score, and he is immediately visited by an alien who comes to tell him that that's actually a training device, and he's being recruited to actually go fight in a real space war that is being simulated by the video game. So every kid's dream who was really good at a video game wanted it to have some real stakes, and there you go. Issue 1 through issue 3 there. Current series, Laura Kinney, Wolverine. Variant cover for issue 1. There. Through issue 5. Issue 6 through this would be issue 10, but this is the Alex Ross Timeless variant with the Dazzler on there. And then the next issues, at that point, it goes into the Age of Revelation, where it's Laura Kinney Sabretooth. But those are, since that little series isn't done yet, they haven't been filed away yet. Then we have Law Living Assault Weapons. So this is basically the Charlton. I can never say that or feel like I'm saying that right. Charlton characters, Blue Beetle, Captain Atom, etc. Being all put into one sort of super team again. And really, this was never revisited. It's like, okay, we're all on a team, and then nobody ever mentioned it again. So issue 1 through issue 6, but it does include, by the way, a Peacemaker, a kind of a variation on Peacemaker. Not quite the nutty Peacemaker that you're used to. Alright, then we have Lazarus Planet Alpha. The DC Universe isn't in the formal title. And it is a demon finds there's a volcano or a mountain that contains all of the sort of the Lazarus material that the Ra's al Ghul's Lazarus pits derive from, which is what he dips himself in to revitalize himself when he dies or gets too old. And so there's this cloud of this material that goes all over the world, and it gives people superpowers, or changes the powers of the heroes who already have power, people who already have powers. So, and the heroes have to do what they can to keep things under control. So that's issue 1. So Lazarus Planet Alpha, right there. I think it was mostly one-shots of various types. So Lazarus Planet, Dark Fate. There. Lazarus Planet, Legends Reborn. They also had some series, new series that spun out of it. Lazarus Planet, We Once Were Gods. Lazarus Planet, Revenge of the Gods. This was actually a mini-series within the whole thing. So, Lazarus Planet, Revenge of the Gods, 1 through 4. And I think this, if I remember correctly, this is where, in the current continuity, Mary Marvel, instead of having the same, being just a byproduct of Shazam, of the Captain Billy, she gets, her own. She goes back to having her own goddesses feeding her power. So if something happens to the wizard Shazam, and he can't zap her, then these other goddesses are around. Anyway. League of Champions. So Champions was a role-playing game that was, you know, where instead of like Dungeons and Dragons, where you're, you know, elves and dwarves and all that kind of thing, this League of Champions was superheroes, Champions was the game. And like most video games, the books had some sample characters who you could either you could use them and play with, you know, you play with them instead of making up your own, or at the very least they were used throughout the book in the illustrations and things, just demonstrating, you know, what was being talked about on the page. And so Hero Graphics did a comic book series in which they featured those characters having in stories, you know, and having adventures. So during that they had the Morrigan Wars, and the Morrigan Wars, it was kind of a crossover with the Southern Knights, who are on here. Electrode and Aramis and Connie Ronan should probably, and Dragon and things like that. So I was a big Southern Knights fan, so when I found out that they had this crossover, I made sure to pick this. There's Connie Ronan up there. Made sure to pick this up. We've got The Legacy of Superman. This was kind of a, you know, from the 90s, and it's just a set of stories featuring various characters who had been super adventurous characters who had been appearing in the Superman books for either long or short periods of time. We have Sinbad, Gangbuster, the Thorn, Guardian, Wave Rider. Then we have, so as I mentioned in previous videos, sometimes when things get pricey for the individual issues, I will punt, and if there's a trade paperback, I'll get that instead. And at some point I ran out of room on the bookshelf, so if it's something where I've got some trade and some individual issues, I put the trade in the box. So this would be an example of that. Legendary Star-Lord trade paperback that reprints Legendary Star-Lord 1 through 5 right there. And then I actually have some issues. That's where I start with the regular issues, issue 6 through 8. And this was during the time, I believe, when Star-Lord was dating Kitty Pryde of the X-Men. Talk about your long-distance relationship. And then Legendary Star-Lord 9. This is probably why I kind of started getting this series. I wouldn't have normally gotten it. I like the Guardians of the Galaxy, but I keep telling myself, well, they're not going to have anything to do with the main storylines on Earth. And then I keep getting convinced, you know, I keep being wrong about that. And then I have to go back and get the series of the parts of the crossover, and once I have the parts of the crossover, then I want the rest of the series. So yeah, I should just buy them anyway. But yeah, so this Black Vortex event that was going on between the Guardians and the new X-Men, or all new X-Men, things like that. Issue 9 right there. It's a second printing, for what it's worth. I don't remember why I have a second printing. I guess that's just what I stumbled across. And then I think that series ends. This looks like the series is ending with issue 12 right there. And we have Legend of Aquaman. So there had been a mini series just kind of revamping a little bit. Aquaman before the Crisis thing. Yeah, well, this is 1989, so, you know, it was kind of in that immediate post-Crisis, we don't exactly know what we're doing kind of time frame. Keith Giffen doing some more. He had done this miniseries with Kurt Swan, who was, of course, a famous Superman artist, but John Byrne had come in, and now John Byrne was doing, you know, leading the Superman ship. So Swan moved over to Aquaman for at least one miniseries. And so after the miniseries, then they did this one shot, kind of continuing that story just a little bit. And we have Legend of the Hawkman. Kind of a throwback to Silver Age. Hawkman, drawn by Michael Lark. I had these on my list for a while, and these copies are kind of banged up, but I went ahead and got them. And I still only have issues 1 and 2, but it's kind of a throwback to Silver Age. Hawkman, not sure if it, you know, fits canon or does or doesn't. And that's issue 2 right there. We have Legend of the Shield. So this was one of those Archie comics, you know, Archie, Jughead, Betty and Veronica. That company had put out a line of superheroes, and they'd, you know, they'd gone bust. The superhero side had. And so then they'll periodically license those characters out to other publishers, and they did so with DC for a while. And so their sort of Captain America-esque character is called the Shield, but instead of, you know, his series for Impact Comics at DC was Legend of the Shield. So there you go. That's issue 1. Over the course of the time that this imprint runs, I think we would have no less than at least 2 Shields, if not maybe 3. Issue 8. Issue 9. There. Through issue 16. That's the end of that series. And then they had an annual. And EarthQuest was the storyline running through all of the annuals of the Impact series. Legend of the Swamp Thing, Halloween Spectacular, one of those quarterly, I think they're quarterly, books that DC's been doing lately with just lots of different artists and writers doing short stories. I think it's kind of a talent tryout sort of thing, just to see who does a good job of getting their pages in on time and that sort of thing. Then we have Legend of Wonder Woman. So you had the Wonder Woman series, and the Wonder Woman series ended right about the time that Crisis on Infinite Earths ended. And then this series was published for 4 months, and then it was followed by the George Perez revamp of Wonder Woman. And the legend is that the contract between Wonder Woman's creators and DC was that she could never not be published. And I don't know if that's true or not. I think there were some years when her old series was only published like 7 to 9 times that year, so, you know, would that have violated that? But at any rate, this is kind of a throwback to, even though her shirt is using the one that she had ended with, kind of a throwback to her early days in terms of art and tone and that kind of thing. So that's issue 1. through issue 3. We had to get in some bondage, as was so famous during that time. And then the series ends with issue 4, which people are paying a little bit more money for these days. I don't really necessarily know why. This whole thing is by Trina Robbins, classic female comic book writer and artist. And that brings us to Legends. So the first major event following the Crisis on Infinite Earths sees Darkseid trying to mess around with Earth by sending one of his dudes to convince the general public that superheroes were bad. This is a theme we'll see every once in a while. And of course he sends a few monsters along the way, like Brimstone. And spinning out of this, we'll have the Suicide Squad, which will be written by John Ostrander, who wrote this. We will have the new Justice League book, and this was really cool. I mean, it's John Byrne art, so if you're a John Byrne fan, it's great to see him drawing so many different DC characters, and so it's good stuff. So that's issue 1 through, well, here you go, issue 6 right there. This is positively just about the lineup of the new Justice League. Then we have Legends of the Dark Claw. So this is part of the Amalgam line where DC and Marvel teamed up, and as part of the storyline, their heroes merged. So this was like a combination of Wolverine and Batman, and Marvel published some of them, DC published some of them, and there you go. All the stories acted like they had been around forever, and that was the characters we'd always read about, even though that wasn't, of course, really the case. We have Legends of the Dark Knight. So this is not the classic Batman Legends of the Dark Knight, which, please see an earlier video for that. This is an additional series that does not have the Batman part on the front. And I think this was reprints of Digital First stuff, maybe. But it's just, it's a bunch of Batman stories. And it's not bad. So there you go. Issue 1. I've been picking these up in dollar book bins, so I don't think I have a full run. Issue 4. Issue 5. Keeping up with Martian Manhunter. Through issue 8. Oh, I'm sorry. And there were 2 of these. So that was one series, and then there's another one. And I think I've got a few of each. So this is the next series. So depending on how you count it, the second or third Legends of the Dark Knight. You got to kind of pay attention to the logos. This one is during, So this one is during the Circle DC. This one's during the Foldy Over DC. Issue 4. 36. I think I might have gotten some of these without realizing that there were two different things. Luckily, I didn't get, the same thing. I wouldn't have gotten the same, duplicates because, I was trying to fill a run. Alright, then we have Legends of the DC Universe. So this was a series that would jump from character to character. Usually used to spending about 2 or 3 issues to tell a story. Even though, some of them already had their own books and things. And a lot of them were set in the past of the character. I think it was trying to play on the Batman Legends of the Dark Knight storyline, or, theme. So issue 1 has a Superman story and this beautiful painted cover. Issue 8, we have an early version of Green Lantern and Green Arrow teaming up. They would, of course, go on to be best pals and drive around the country together. We have issue 9 of that. Issue 16, we have a Flash story. More painted covers. Issue 19, what did I say? Did I say 19? 16, and then that's 17. I'm sure I said that right. Issue 24, a dark side oriented, New Gods oriented story. The story's continuing into issue 25. The Jump. 28, check that out. There was it was like a Green Lantern story, or a villain called Traitor, who had 3 different stories, or showed up a couple of different times in various stories, even though for the most part all this stuff wasn't necessarily connected. But we've got Gil Kane penciling. Bless his heart, he would have been, in his 80s or something at this point, with Alex Ross painting over it. Whew, wow. And issue 29. I don't know that necessarily this might just be Ross. Or this might be somebody else in Ross. Oh no, Gil Kane's still drawing, so go man. Gil Kane was drawing stuff in the late 40s. This is from the 2000, this is from 2000, yeah. 32, 18th letter, featuring the Trinity. There. We've got issue 33. This one takes place more towards, at the time, the present, when Hal Jordan is the Spectre. He had lost his mind, become Parallax, destroyed the Green Lantern Corps, done a lot of bad things, saved the Earth, died, and became the new, the new Spectre there for a while, and then he came back to regular life and became a Green Lantern again. Issue 33. Issue 41. An Atom story, and that is the final issue of that series. then they had a one-shot, Legends of the DC Universe, Crisis on Infinite Earths. So this takes place in between 2 issues of the original series, and the pre-Crisis heroes travel to a world called Earth D, and Earth D is sort of D for diversity. Most of the major heroes are, are black or other races. So there you go. That's issue 1 right there of that one shot. We've got Legends of the DC Universe 80-page giant, so just taking that whole idea and doing a one-shot special, as you do with a lot of series. Issue 1. Oh, okay. And issue 2. Let's get back together. We've got Legends of the Legion. So during the Legion, the sort of post-crisis, I don't know, there's lots of iterations of the Legion after the Crisis, but the one that was going on there in the late 90s, they had this mini series where it's just basically each character, several different characters got a one shot, kind of giving their background. This one's on Ultra Boy in issue 1 through Starboy in issue 4. And this was kind of interesting. So, DC comes out, they do their solicitations telling you, what's coming up. And they talk about some miniseries that are going to be coming out soon. And then suddenly, all those miniseries get canceled. But the contents of the miniseries get rolled into one book. So instead of doing a 6-issue Firestorm book and a 6-issue Metamorpho book and a 6-issue Metal Men book, they just do 6 issues of Legends of Tomorrow, which they're borrowing that term from the CW show that featured many of DC's characters, and just do it all as one thick book that came out every month. Interesting idea, since a lot of anthologies don't necessarily sell as well these days, but that's what they did. It also featured Sugar and Spike, who were originally from a humor strip in which they were little babies who could talk to each other and would have little weird, adventures and stuff, and so the idea here is that they've grown up and they're private investigators together. So that's issue 1. Through issue 3. Issue 4. Through issue 6. And I had forgotten Firestorm was in this, which of course that makes sense because Firestorm, the character, was in the Legends of Tomorrow show, but I've been wondering why we haven't had a Firestorm book in a while, because for trademark purposes they really need to use a character on the cover of a book, and their logo and stuff periodically, but I forgot about this. I thought we were like way overdue for Firestorm, but this has probably been what's been keeping things under control. Now, as of this recording, and here in late 2025, we're supposed to get a Firestorm series in 2026. So there you go. And so I think in my previous video, I said in this video we would get to some Legion, but when I got to looking at these boxes, I realized I needed to do a little bit of box shift, so I had to shift the Legion stuff that was in this box to the next box. So we will start with Legion on the next one, and this is all for this one. All right, that was box number 97. Next time we'll get into box number 98. We will get into Legion, all things Legion. It's going to be a good time if you like Legion stuff. I'm so glad you were here. Thank you so much. Please like and comment and subscribe. It does wonderful things for the channel when you do that. And I hope otherwise you have a great day.